welcome back everyone. Today I'm going to be modding the PlayStation 2 that we repaired. A lot of people have asked me if instead of doing emulation or building a PC that emulates the games and everything, although that's fantastic because it upscales and looks really nice for modern TVs and everything, they've asked me if I can do a quick video on how to mod the original PlayStation 2 and put games onto it and everything. That was after my Xbox video. If you guys want to know how to mod the OG Xbox, then take a look in the videos, you'll see that down there. This is a lot easier. You will need a few things. An adapter that allows you to plug the SATA drive into the machine at the back. That actually goes in here. You're going to need a hard drive. And for this, I'm just going to be using a small profile 1 terabyte drive just because I got it kicking around. I would recommend putting a large up to 2 terabyte drive into this. And another mistake as well people seem to be making is they think they could load every single game that was ever released onto the PlayStation 2. But I think there was like 2,500 released, maybe even a little bit more than that. 2 terabytes in this machine will not take all those games. I've managed to max it out to around 500 games from my collection, of course. So bear that in mind. And also we need to put a little bit of art and everything across there as well, but I'll show you how to do that. So there's the hard drive and everything. I did buy a little USB to HDMI adapter that goes into the back. And it did convert the original RF signal into HDMI, but it was HDMI, it was I, 1920 by 1080i, and the new TVs, especially the big TVs, won't take that signal. And the way I've got around it is I'm going to use the original cable, but I'm going to plug it into one of these little cheap £5 upscalers. Obviously there's your inputs and there's your HDMI output. And although this doesn't give you an amazing quality signal, it is equivalent to what it used to be on the PlayStation 2, which is absolutely fine. We can go 720p or 1080, it doesn't matter when you change these, it doesn't do a damn thing. This unit is powered by USB, but luckily enough the PlayStation 2 has 2 USB ports in the front. So we're going to be using both of those. So that gets the machine running. Now to start with the modding, we have to use a data stick. And I've just got a little cheap 16 gig data stick here. You know, a little 2 gig one here. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. Just a little cheapy data stick is absolutely fine. We do have to format this into FAT32. So what I'm going to do now is, before we even get started on the files and everything, I'm just going to test this with a game. I've got a couple of games I want to transfer over to it straight away. So Rayman Revolutions, and I've got Akami here as well. So I'm going to test that now, just to make sure this works still, and we get an image and everything, and then we can step forward with the modding. And I will try to make it as simple and as straightforward as possible, and I will show you the programs I use as well. Bit of power in there. So turn it on. Red light's on. Let's get a controller. Put that in there. So let's display the video and turn it on. There you go. So that's the little mini converter doing its thing. Ejecting nicely now. Oh, look at that. My Rayman Revolutions is a nice normal box. But there's a blooming Platinum edition inside it. It's a bit annoying, isn't it? Oh well. Let's close that. Make sure she boots up. I recommend doing this with any console you're going to be modding. Just make sure everything works fine at the beginning of it, because I have jumped into converting a console before thinking it works absolutely fine, and there was issues with it from the start. PlayStation 2. So there we go. So we know it's loading in Rayman's Revolutions. I'm not going to step forward any further in this. We know we don't really need to know if the disc works and everything. We just need to know that the console boots in and nothing's wrong there. So I'm going to stop that. Turn that off. And what we'll do now, turn it off properly. And what we'll do now is I'm just going to step forward now and show you the desktop, and I'll show you what we have to do with the USB files. Also, before I connect my drive to my PC, I just want to show you the unit I use. Fideco USB 3 adapter. So far, I got this on Amazon. I think it was like £15. But so far, this has worked with every drive I've put onto it, even in old IDE drives, you know, for the Xbox stuff, and all the starters I've put onto it. The PC has been able to see it absolutely fine. It's got its own power. There's the adapter for the IDE if you need it. And yeah, so this just literally just plugs onto the front of there like this. And we get to read it. And it's, like I say, it works absolutely fine. On off switch over here. You know, turn it on now. Don't know if you can hear that winding up. But the drive's now wound up. There you go. So it's reading it. But yeah, I thought I'd mention that because there is a variation of units, but this seems to work absolutely fine. So there we go. Okay, so over on the desktop, you can either go to my computer or Microsoft E. So here's the two drives that are actually on this little, let me turn it off, you'll see them disappear. And I'll turn it back on again, and you'll see them pop back up. So it looks like this was an old Windows 8 installation, probably off of a laptop or something like that. A Lenovo laptop, no doubt. So they've partitioned this drive. But what we want to do is we want to just clear this drive back to raw. And the best way to do that is with command line. So we run command line, maybe run it as administrator. And let me see if I can remember my programming. We want to run disk partition. I think disk part is all one word. There we go. So we're in disk partition. We now want to see what drives we have in our machine. I think it's that. There you go. So list disk. So I've only got one drive in my machine, and that's disk 0 here. That's my normal drive. And disk 1 is this little 1 terabyte Western Digital here. So we want to select disk 1, so we type exactly that. Select disk 1, enter. Disk 1 is now selected. And what we do is we just type clean in there. And that basically puts it back to almost raw, puts the disk back to almost raw. So clean. And we should now see the Lenovo F and Windows 8E disappear. There we go. So what's happened now, and now we can type exit on that as well, or just shut it down. It doesn't matter how you do it. So now that disk is back to raw. And if I show you, if we go right click on Microsoft icon and go to disk management, that disk will now flag up like this and wants to be initialized. Do not initialize this now, otherwise you just have to go back through what you did. We don't want to do this at all. Anywhen through this process, if this ever was to pop up, do not format it back into a Windows format, because you'll lose all your information. But as you can see, there it is there in the disk management. Right, let's close that down. Now let me show you the files here. So these are the files. Ignore the zipped files, because that's how they download. But you want to get everything that's in here. So you want your FMCB, your batch, HDL batch installer, OPL manager, that's for the games and the info. I've created a themes folder, but you guys can download whatever themes you like. I do prefer the Decky OS Neon Cyan. So yeah, so we've got your FMCB install, HDL batch installer, OPL manager, some themes I've downloaded, and you do need these for here as well. You can find them on the web, or I can package this up into one package if anybody wants it. But HDR DDR raw copy, I'm going to use the portable version just because it's quick and easy, and we only use this once. And these files need to be put across onto a data stick. So let me put the data stick in. Microsoft E. I've just put PS2 files. So like I said earlier, you need to format your data stick into FAT32, otherwise the PlayStation 2 will not read it. So just, you know, a low storage size folder, USB stick in FAT32, and then inside that, why is that so big? I've copied FM installer, boot.alf, and the open np alf. So this file here, the boot alf, is what makes the PlayStation 2 boot into your custom front end to start off with. This allows us to install it onto the hard drive, and that's the file we use to do it. Okay, so that's all that's needed for the PlayStation. So I'm going to eject this one. So that's the data stick. This file here works with HDD raw copy. Basically what it does is it mounts the hard drive to be able to be read inside the PlayStation 2. So I'm going to do that now. So HDD raw copy. So we want our source is that physical. So we go to browse. Mine's on my desktop. So desktop, PlayStation 2 modding. Change this to all files. And now we can see our raw. So we select that and open. So now that's ready to go. And our target is a physical drive. So physical drive. Here it looks like it's chosen my operating system. So I'm going to use the down arrow. And here is the Western Digital drive that we just cleaned. See, it says via USB, and it's a Western Digital WDC. So I'm going to choose that. Everything else just leave alone. It's ready to go, and this is really quick. So if I click Start Copy, leave that at 0. All data will be overwritten, of course. So it's preparing the drive. There you go. Copy completed there, look. All done. So let's exit that. And I'm going to unplug the hard drive. That's the only time we use this. So that's that part done. And now I'm going to step back to the camera and we'll plug it back in, and I'll show you what the PlayStation 2 does. So back on the PlayStation 2, I'm just going to turn it off. So there's no power going through it. This is the data stick that had those 3 files on it, so we plug that into the front. There is a mod where you can run from the USB data stick, but this particular machine might go out onto a shop floor or something like that, and I don't want people just to be able to walk along and pull this out and run away with it. So yeah, we don't want that. Here's the hard drive we just repaired. Repaired. What an idiot. So hook this out. That thing, if you're not going to see it again, you can do one. And where's the adapter? Right, so here's the adapter. So I'm just going to put that onto there. Right, this does sit flat onto the bottom in here. The bigger drives are a little bit better because they fill the bay up, but even then they've got a lot of space at the front. So like the size of these drives, they do go in, but they still have probably 10mm at the front. So I would recommend maybe getting a bit of 10mm sponge and fixing it to the front of the drive, just so it pushes in there snugly and sits snugly on this. But as you can see, we're going to be using this tiny little drive, so that's going to be flapping around a little bit in there. So you guys are going to have to figure out a way of keeping that safe in there. But for the time being, I'm just going to gently push this in there, line up and click it in. And obviously you do your fixing screws up. Don't have to do that because we do have to take the drive out again in a bit, because of course you're going to want to put your games on. But what we're going to do now is bring up the display, turn it on and power it up. So what it's going to do now, it's not going to do anything with the hard drive just yet up here. It's going to read off of the USB stick that's in the front, and it will load the custom browser. So there we go. So it's launched straight in. So this is the Launch Alf program. You can see it top right there. This is the one that was on that data stick. And what we want to do is press O for file browser. The data stick is called mass. So we go down to mass. O is select on this system, so O there. And we come down to boot.alf and we press O to select that. So now we're back in the file browser. It looks very similar to the one at the beginning, but I found this way is probably the best way to do it. So we're now running that. So we go file browser. Now we go down to miscellaneous and press OK. And what we want is this hard disk drive manager. So we run that with O or circle, sorry. Now, hard disk drive state is 0, but it's connected and it is formatted. Okay, and you can see on the right there that MBR that we installed, so it just sees the partition that we put onto it. So what we want to do now, see it says R1 menu, so we press R1 and we format. So the PS2 will mount this drive now ready. It will marry itself basically to this drive. So I'm just going to press OK on that. This can take a little bit of time, but not a lot of time. It'll be a couple of minutes probably at the most. Right, so that did actually take literally a couple of minutes. So yeah, be patient with that. But now you can see that it's created these other partitions ready to go. And what we want to do is create one more folder. So to do that, press R1 again, and we want to create. So O to create, and we're going to create a folder called plus OPL, and this is where all the mod files go. And by creating it now, it saves us a whole lot of issues instead of doing it later on. So we create OPL, OK to that. Now, this is how much megabytes we're going to allocate to that OPL folder. Now, bearing in mind, the OPL folder contains artwork and videos if you want to, and stuff like that. And people do tend to just stop around the 1536 mark. But I ran into a problem when I loaded up a load of games onto the PlayStation 2. I didn't have enough space in here to put all the artwork. So the installation was sort of balked right from the start, because only half the games showed their artwork, and it looks really stupid if you're showing, you know, the covers and everything, and then all of a sudden the rest of your games don't have any covers, and it just looks a bit cheap and nasty. So what I did was I just bounced it up to about 2.5. So I recommend doing that as well. You know, 2,560 megabytes, and the images are only kilobytes, but when there's a lot of them, it fills it up. And also bearing in mind as well is the themes getting installed here as well. So yeah, so press O to create that 2560. That should be okay. Yes, let's create that new partition. New partition created, and there it is. Right, so now we need to step back. So exit, we go to file browser again. Now we go down to the data stick again, mass, and now we want to run the FMCB installer. So we go in there, go down to, I use FMCB installer ALF. I don't know whether the exFAT is similar, but I'm just using ALF to start off with. So O to select, and it will now load into the installer. There you go, free McBoot, we're getting there. So I'm going to press R1, and that brings us across, and we want to choose install FHDB. So notice now O is exit and X is OK, so just bear that in mind. I'm going to press X now, and it tells you there it will be installed onto the hard disk drive. So we say yes, and just let that do its thing. There we go, okay. And then we can either O to exit and quit the program. We can say okay to that. Right, let that reboot, but essentially that is that hard drive mounted and modded, ready for the PlayStation 2. A lot of people's videos tend to stop there. I don't know why, because they don't tell you how to set up the front end and everything. And I am going to do that with you right now. So there's the free HD boot. Basically it's booted off of the data stick again. So we don't need any of this just yet. So what we're going to do is power it down, press and hold. Take the data stick out of the front, because we shouldn't need that anymore, and we don't want it interfering in any way with our installation. And we take the drive back out and take it back over to the PC, because we want to now put our artwork and our games that we have onto the drive, and probably put across a theme as well. So let's do that. So of course I've legally dumped my games onto a hard drive, or obtained them somewhere, but I'll leave that up to you people. And we need to plug this in as well to the PC. So back on the desktop, I'm just going to run this PC because you'll see there's my Sony PS2, there's my ROMs installed on that drive, but you won't see the PS2 hard drive, so don't worry, it is there. So back into our PS2 modding folder, we now want to install, so we run the HDD batch installer. I would say probably run it as an administrator with right mouse button, just so it doesn't mess us around in any way. Now, I'm going to click search PS2 hard drives. And there it is. It's found our hard drive. We will run through hard disk drive management in a minute because I'm going to show you how to transfer files quickly on the PC, but there is a few caveats of that. But first of all, let's throw a couple of games onto here. So we browse, we don't browse, we search for games, sorry. So search games, and now look onto my hard drive, and I wanted Rayman, because I've got Rayman Revolutions there, and it was Okami, wasn't it? Okami, so I'm going to control and click that. So I've chosen my two games that I want to put across. And over here, so you can see it, you'll see it's loading the ISOs, and then it will copy the ISOs over. So I'm going to let that run so you can see exactly what it says. Right, so it says loading ISOs. So here they are here, ready to go. And now all we need to do is click install. I've moved this down here so you can see what it says at the bottom because it gives you a percentage. I would recommend, if you've got a lot of games that you want to put across, you can go down the list and choose all your ISO files. So if, for example, let's say 500 of them, choose them, it'll populate this list, it'll take a couple of minutes to populate, and then install. Once you've clicked install, you might as well walk away from the PC for about, well, 500 games will probably take you about 4 hours to transfer them across, 4 or 5 hours, because they're quite big. I'm going to show you this in real time with just 2 games, and you'll get the gist of how long it can take. So install. There you go. So what it's doing is injecting DVD on the bottom left, and now you'll see bottom right is the percentage of its installation. And bear in mind, this is just one game. So there you go, that's one game gone in, so that's a couple of minutes. So I'm going to mount the second game now. I will say as well, there is an option for this installer to, I think it's not clip art, or it's icons or something like that, icon packs and stuff like that. When that pops up, just say no to them. You can make it default so it doesn't download those bits and pieces, which is what I've done now. So you're not seeing those pop-ups come up, but when they do, just say no to them because they fail. And we don't need those icon packs anyway, because I'm going to show you how to get the art from another program. There you go. So what we can do now is go to browse and get list. And there we are, there's our 2 games now carried across, copied properly onto the hard drive. This here, these IDs, is how the PlayStation 2 sees the discs. And this normally throws people because this here is how you do the artwork. So I'm going to show you now quickly how to do the artwork in a quick and easy way. So quit out of that, back into our PS2 modding folder. And we now run the OPL manager for the PC. Okay. One thing I will say, when you run this and get hold of the packages, you know, the graphics and the covers and everything, it doesn't actually save it onto the hard drive. It puts it here in this folder. See here, HDL hard disk drive. And what I'm going to do here is create a new folder and call it THM, because that's somewhere where we put our themes. So let's see if I can open this up in another window, open up in a new window. Okay, so here's our themes folder. I'm just going to do this quickly for you. So back here is my themes, and here is the theme that I would like to add to the hard drive. A lot of people will extract this, like here, and then try and drag the folder over. It doesn't like it in OPL Manager. It doesn't like it. So I'm going to show you how to do it properly. But anyway, back to the OPL Manager. Again, I'm going to run this as an administrator. Right, so once we're in here, it looks a bit, you know, a lot going on. There isn't a lot going on. All we're going to do is get a games list. Ready to get games list, connect your hard drive. So it's already there. Got games list. There we go. There's our 2 games we have. And what we want to do is go to batch actions. So obviously I've only got 2 games installed. You'll have a lot of games in here. But if we go to batch actions, art downloads, again, it looks all over the place, but I don't want any of the back art. I don't want any of the rib casing covers. I don't want any of the discs. I just want the logo, the background, and the front cover. So download cover, don't need back cover, don't need disc, don't need spine. Download the logo and download the background. And we click start. There we go. So we OK that. We can close this page down. Now, as you can see, when I click on these, they've got their cover art there. So once your games have got all their cover art, we exit out of this. Now, those files are going to be in this art folder here. And we need to get this lot here across to the PlayStation 2 hard drive. You can put these onto a data stick, plug it into the front of the PlayStation and use the file browser to copy them over. That takes a long time because the poor old PlayStation 2 doesn't work very fast. So what I tend to do is go back to the HDL batch installer, and in here is a function for the hard drive manager. And what we can do is search for the PS2 hard drives. It will read up and read it. Now we can mount the PlayStation 2 drive that's hidden, and we can make it pop up onto Windows as a normal folder. So I will show you how to do that. So we mount it. Remember our plus OPL folder we created? That's this one here. So we want to choose that, and this here is its allocation. It's hard drive allocation. Doesn't matter where you go. Most of these up here will be filled up. People's drives will already have A, B, E, F, G, you know, depending on how many hard drives or SSDs you've got in your system. So I'm just going to go all the way up to like T, and then I'm going to mount it. Leave all this here because you want to go to my computer, and you'll see, let me shrink that down. There you go. You'll see here is the physical drive. So I'm going to open this, and at the moment there's nothing in here. So what I want to do is I want these folders to be in there. So I'm not going to copy the art over yet. I'm going to show you what it does. So I'm going to copy these here, and art I'm going to try and copy across and see if it takes the files. Which it did. And there they are inside. So that's good. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes it says unable or MS-DOS fail or something like that. And what you have to do then is you have to run your art folder, nothing in there, and WinRAR or zip up all of these files. So compress, add to art.rar. Then when you've got your RAR file for it, you right click and drag it and you say extract here. And for some reason that works. It doesn't give you the MS-DOS file and it extracts into this folder and it works. Personally, I think that's probably just due to disk size allocation, but we've allocated plenty of disk space now earlier on. So these are all in here now. Here's our themes folder. So what I'm going to do is go back to my install files, go to my themes. I'm just going to use the Decky OS one, and I will show you now how to do that drag and drop. So right click, drag, let go, extract here. There you go. So now it's put that theme. See, it's THM underscore. That's now the theme in there. Don't put the zip files or RAR files or 7-zip files across. They need to be extracted. So I'm just going to leave that one in there because I like that one. Let me go back and explain. So now we've got our art for our games installed. We've got our new themes installed. We've already put 2 games across to the drive. So we can now come out of this. I will say always unmount before you go anywhere else. So if I unmount, exit and exit, I'm going to make sure that's not in my PC anymore, so it's not there anymore. So now I'm going to turn these drives off and we can take the drive we've prepared back to the PlayStation 2. So here we are back at the PlayStation 2. Now this is a drive with all your games on it, all your art on it and all your themes on it. We'll put that in and let it boot, but what it won't do is it won't boot into your theme and your games straight away. It'll boot into a menu, and this trips a lot of people up as well. They're like, where's all my games and everything? They're on there, but you've just got to tell the system to boot into it. So there we go, get that back in there. Like that. I can now do these up because of course I've packed the internals out so the drive won't go anywhere if it was shaking. Okay, so the drive is now back in. Turn it back on again. Just get red like that. Bring back up the video, and now I'm going to show you what it will do when it reads from the drive and where we're at. So front load, you'll probably see a little bit of like a twitch, and then we should get the bootloader. There you go. So that's now reading from that drive that we've prepared. So no need for the USB stick in the front. And this is where everybody gets, and they're like, oh, it's no different to what it normally is. It is slightly. You can see the free HD boot there, which is what it's loaded into. But what we do have to do is we have to configure it. So there's the PS2 loader. You can load straight into there if you want to, but nobody wants to really come into a menu to load a menu to load a menu. So what we'll do is we'll configure it. X, enter. There we go. We're used to this. Let me have a look. So we go down to E1 launch keys. I don't know why it's called launch keys. It should say launch root or something like that, but that's what it says. At the moment, Auto OSD SYS. That's what it's booting into. So if we click on that, we can now change that to hard disk drive the FHDB apps, OPL and OPL M2 ALF. Okay, so now see it says auto hard disk drive. Basically what that's doing now is that's going to boot the theme straight in, so you don't get that browser at the beginning of it. You can drop back down into that browser, as you can see here. So it says OSDS system. When you boot your system up and press and hold O, it will boot back into exactly where we was just a second ago. But we don't want that. We want it to boot into our front end so we can play our games and everything. Let that car go by. Right, so we go down to return, and then we go to save configuration to the hard drive. And we say OK. And at the top it says saved. So we can now exit, let it reboot. I'm going to do this in real time so you can see the time that it takes to boot back up again. There's that little twitch it always gets, so you should get your FreeMac boot pop up again. There we go. I actually did that really quite quickly. My other drive didn't do it that quick. So it skipped the MacBoot beat, jumped straight into OPL. So here, now we're loading into where we need to be. But as you're looking at it now, you're like, where's my games list? This is actually the options for it all. So I'm just going to go through the settings now quickly. So debug, PS2 logo, you can have it on and off if you want to. Cache the games list on the hard drive. I would probably say put that on. We don't need to change any of these paths. We don't need to use the USB. Down here where it says hard disk drive start mode, just set that to auto. And go to OK. I will go down to save changes before you go anywhere else. So save changes. That's done. Display settings. Here is our theme, basic OPL at the moment. So if I click on this, I should be able to go across and choose the other theme that I put in there. There it is there, look. I pressed down, sorry, to get to that. So I'm going to OK that. I would like to enable cover art. I'm not having notifications or auto refreshes. I'm going to leave video mode auto because some of your games will be in PAL and some of them will be NTSC probably, or Japanese, you know, it depends. If you leave it on auto, it'll auto change the output. And I'm going to put widescreen on. I'm going to say OK to that. Go down to save changes. Just check in, make sure they're all there. Right, so back in settings, now we've changed all that, I'm going to go down to where it says default menu. So at the moment it says no choice, but if you click on it, it will change it to hard drive games. And click it to that, and we say OK, remembering to save changes. Then we go back. Right, now you can either exit and reboot the system, or if you just press the start button, it actually takes you into what your machine's going to boot into. Okay, but I'm going to go back with start again. I'm going to power off the system. You want that. And now in real time, I'm going to boot the system back up and show you what it does. Because we have now modded it. Hard drive's modded. We've installed games. We've put the artwork across to it. We don't have a dodgy USB stick in the front need to be read. It's all purely being read off this hard drive. So there's your FreeMac boot I was telling you about. So now it should boot the OPL with more games on the hard drive as well. See the little spinny bit on the bottom right? when you put new games on, sometimes that can take a few minutes to cache the new games that you have on there. And there we go. So we've booted into our games list automatically. Up and down allows me to choose the game or games that I would like to play. So let's load Akami. So a quick one as well. Let me get rid of this quickly. When you're in your game and you want to go back, if you press and hold these four and start and select, it will take you straight back into this menu again. Give it a 30 seconds or something like that. I'll show you in a second. So X to choose it. Loading the config. I would still use PlayStation 2 data sticks to save your game files. There you go. So see, it's changed my little converter over here. It's changed it to NTSC. So this is why I say use memory cards. You can manage the memory cards via the front end, but it's convoluted. Triangle, make a partition, make some space, call it a data stick, whereas you can just put a regular, you can still get hold of them, PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 memory stick, just for your save files. Pop that in the front here and it'll let you carry on. So are you sure you wish to continue game? Yes. So there it is, loading into the game without any need of any discs.
Clover.
I'll let it run because I quite like the intro. There you go. So if I press start, does it let me go through and get to the menu? There you go. So I can begin my story. But I don't want to begin my story. I want to press and hold all the four top buttons, L and R's, and press start and select. It resets my console. Not too sure if it shows them at boot again. Don't know if it goes back that far. It might just load up the OPL. So there's it reading from the drive. So it loads back into the OPL, and there we go, back again. So I can go down to Rayman. I could choose Rayman. It's probably another NTS game. So I'll let it do that. That's my little converter doing that first. And there we go. Rayman revs. So like I say, I'm using this HDMI AV to HDMI. Little cheap unit. I'm just going to start with standard Rayman. And it works, and it upscales to the new TVs and stuff like that. There probably is a better option. There's probably more expensive options to do it. But just putting a little cheap drive into this with a cheap converter has allowed me to get my PlayStation 2 running all my original games. I'm going to turn it off because I don't want to play it and get rid of that. Right, there we go, PlayStation 2. All converted, new drive and everything in it. Ready to go. So, see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.